Oh, what is the upskis, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the GXGamerCast. We're on episode 111 of my gaming show, where once a week I just has to talk about video games, whether they're new video games that I'm playing today or they're old video games that I grew up with. It doesn't matter. Video games. So we got a modern review today, a game that's actually come out this year. Not really my forte, but hey, it's Plucky Squire, and this game dropped on the PlayStation Plus. It looks super charming. The reviews were pretty damn good for it, and I decided before I dive into my horror month, let's try something a little bright and colorful, pretty much the exact opposite of the horror-a-thon that we're about to get into in October. So let's do a Plucky Squire review, but before we get into the review, let's talk about what I've been up to over the last week or so, and I always encourage you, the viewer, the listener, let me know what y'all have been up to out there. What new video games are you playing? That PlayStation State of Play just went down. Some pretty cool announcements, honestly. That Yakuza pirate game, sign me up. Sign me up. I'm all in for that. I still have numerous Yakuza games to catch up on, but I'm just happy that they're releasing more of them. I'm all in. So that's awesome. The Ghost of Tsushima, the sequel, they announced that. The Ghost of Utah or whatever, that's going to be sick. So let me know what you thought of the State of Play. I thought it was good, not great, but yeah, and the PlayStation Plus Pro and all that crap. Anyway, what video games are you checking out? Tell me what movies have you seen recently, and especially right around now, start throwing out your horror movie recommendations, please and thank you. Throw me your scariest movies. Try me, bro. Try me. Try to scare me. I dare you. I mean, I've seen a lot of scary movies, but throw them at me. I've probably seen most of them, but try to throw a gem at me. Maybe something that isn't very, very well known. The scarier, the better. Please and thank you. So throw those horror movies out at me, and let me tell you what I've been up to over the last week. So, in terms of, where should we start? Let's start with a movie. I will shout out the homie Billy, because the homie Billy finally started getting into the Studio Ghibli movies. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah, bro. Like, I've grown up on Studio Ghibli movies. Not all of them, but a handful. I've been watching them since I was a young boy. Saw Princess Mononoke for the first time, and Bob's Your Uncle. And I still, admittedly, haven't watched all of the Studio Ghibli movies. I've been slowly making my way through the earlier movies, and I picked up another one. So my homie, he watched Nausicaa. I watched Nausicaa Valley in the Wind last year, I think. It was great. Not one of my favorites, but still great. So this time, I watched Castle in the Sky. Shocked at myself that I haven't watched this one yet, but the older the Studio Ghibli movie is, the harder it was for me to find as a young man when I was very into these ones. The ones that I can only find when I was young was like Princess Mononoke and Onward. Anything before that was very, very difficult to track down. Now they're all on Netflix, so if you are behind on the Studio Ghibli, get your ass in gear and start watching them while they're on Netflix, because who knows how long they're going to be there. And pretty much, everyone that I've watched has been fantastic, and Castle in the Sky is no exception to that. This movie was fucking awesome. Shocked at myself, like I said, that I haven't watched this one yet. I keep mixing it up for some random reason with Howl's Moving Castle. It's got Castle in the title, so I keep thinking that I've seen Castle in the Sky, but I watched the trailer, I'm like, oh, hell no, I have not seen this. And watching 10 seconds of the trailer, I'm like, ooh, I really want to watch this. So I did, and I loved it. It was awesome. Now, it's not going to be my favorite in the Studio Ghibli, but it is up there. Like, I'm thinking maybe top 5, possibly top 3. It was very, very good. Absolutely gorgeous movie. This thing is gorgeous. I'm always going to appreciate a hand-drawn animation film over the 3D stuff. I just have an immense appreciation for that, and the animation in Castle in the Sky is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. The amount of stuff that is going on. Some of the action scenes are absolutely sensational. I will say, like, the characters, they're kind of samey. Like, they kind of fall into that standard Studio Ghibli kind of character situation, but it was a very fun adventure, excellent movie to watch with like your family or whatever. Get your kids into these movies, they would love them. I loved Castle in the Sky. 8.5. I absolutely adored, well, adore would be a little bit much, but yeah, it was awesome. Absolutely check that one out. Next on the list for Studio Ghibli's would be Porco Rosso. I think that's what it's called. I was going to watch that, but Castle in the Sky is actually earlier. That's 87, I do believe that came out, and Porco Rosso is 92. So I'm trying to go in order. Regardless, Porco Rosso will be next, but Castle in the Sky, 8.5 out of 10. Friggin' awesome. And then I had to, the Mr. McMahon docu-series dropped on Netflix, so of course my wife and I binge-watched the shit out of that. And it was good. It was good. Now, again, I am a massive wrestling nerd, and I have watched so many videos and documentaries. I've read books, you name it, wrestling. I've checked into it. I've heard numerous stories. So the McMahon thing I was very interested in because I was hoping to get a lot of the stories that I haven't heard before, the details of things that haven't gotten out to the public. And sadly, that is not what you get with the Vince McMahon thing. There may be a story or two that I may not have heard, but for me, a major wrestling nerd, it was a lot of the same stories that I've heard before. You know, the steroid scandal in the late 80s, early 90s. I don't know, just generally like just the McMahon history of how he became, you know, he didn't know his dad, and then he met his dad late, and then he bought the company off of his dad for like $2 million, and then started buying up all the territories. Like, I know this story. I know all about that stuff. So for me, it wasn't, there's 6 episodes, not a lot of new information for a massive wrestling nerd like myself. It was very well done. I liked it was nicely put together. I feel like maybe they pulled the trigger on this series too early because McMahon is right in the middle of his trial right now. So a lot of the stuff is still left open, right? We don't know what McMahon is going to get prosecuted for. We don't know if he's going to prison. We don't know really the answers to any of those questions yet. So it leaves all that open. And it's kind of diving into some of the allegations and some of the stories that are coming out currently, along with some of the old stories sprinkled in, the history, and all of that stuff. Lots of great archive footage. There's lots of fun interviews with people all around the McMahon fucking era in the 90s, the 80s, and all of that shit. Yeah, I mean, for someone that is looking to get into wrestling, they don't know a lot about wrestling, this is an awesome series to check out. It'll really open your eyes to some of the darkness that is the wrestling industry, though I will much more recommend the Dark Side of the Ring for fans out there that are looking for more stories. If this is more of the same stories, I tell people to check out Dark Side of the Ring, because even a lot of the stories that they talk about on that show, I've never heard before, and they're very dark, they're very interesting, and yes, it shows off even more of that dark side of the wrestling industry. But the McMahon series, it was really good. I'd hit it with like a 7.5 out of 10. It'd probably be like an 8.5, maybe 9 for someone that doesn't know anything about the wrestling business, because it would be rather shocking to some people to learn about some of the shit that goes on behind the scenes with the wrestling industry. And the thing that sucks the most is like the first episode of the McMahon thing, you know, they're interviewing McMahon, and he's like, oh, I wish I could tell you, you know, the real stories. And I'm like, fuck, that's what I wanted, man. I wanted, you know, as dark and nasty as they probably are, that's the stuff I haven't heard yet. And I wants to know, like, what the fuck is like, what really, like, it's already dark, and they're saying it gets substantially worse than that. And I mean, they did go into some of the details of some of the allegations that are being thrown at Vince McMahon and Brock Lesnar. That stuff was pretty eye-opening. I mean, some of the stuff that they are doing to people, I mean, again, this really just feels like they're scratching the surface of what is this McMahon situation. So I'm interested to see how this all goes out. I wouldn't be shocked if they do like a season 2 or a second part to this McMahon series after all these prosecutions, allegations, everything, all that is done, which may take numerous years. Regardless, it's a good stepping stone into what I feel like is only the beginning of this McMahon fucking situation, and looks like Brock Lesnar's in a lot of trouble too. So yeah, I would recommend it, absolutely. If you're like a big wrestling nerd and like I don't know, I recommend it. It's good. It was really good. Yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot, so go check it out. Just not a lot of new information. So that was key. I also checked out the first episode of The Rebuild, the Montreal Canadiens series on... what's this one on? I think it's on Crave, this one. And it's really confusing because Crave is doing a hockey thing. Prime's got a hockey thing coming out like really soon. So I was like, wait, what's this now? So Montreal Canadiens won. This is obviously based on the Montreal Canadiens, going behind the scenes, and admittedly, the first episode was incredibly boring. I was barely able to keep my eyes open for some of it. It's very dry. Very, very dry. It's like, oh, hey, Cole Caulfield, what do you expect out of this season? Oh, I expect improvements. Oh, GM of Montreal, what do you expect? I expect improvements. Oh, yeah, we're going to get better, everybody. Just all very, very standard hockey answers. Hockey players right now, like, they're kind of coming out of their shell a little bit, but they're incredibly boring people. Really don't have a lot going on in their lives outside of the hockey. The most interesting parts of the documentary so far have been like inside the locker room where like the coaches are talking to each other. Like that kind of stuff is fun. Not a lot of it so far in the first episode. It's more of just like, here's a very brief history on the Montreal Canadiens, introducing some of the players, but it's all very, very, very plain. Like, here's the cat, like this, I don't know, it's the first episode, so I'm not going to go like too hard on it, but I'm not bought in. Like, it definitely doesn't have my interest like the Leafs documentary does. And I'll also throw out, it's majority in French. So there will be a lot of subtitle reading unless you can speak or understand French. Me, I should understand French, but I do not. So that is the sad situation. So I was kind of hoping I could just watch it in the background. But with the subtitle, I kind of have to like, pay attention to it because there's a lot of French. It takes place in Montreal, of course. There's a lot of French speaking going on, but yeah, it's not really grabbed my interest so far. I'll watch another episode or two. There's 4 episodes available now. We'll see if it gets a little bit better, but so far episode 1 was fucking boring. It almost put me to sleep. All right, let's talk some video games. Finally finished off Mario Kart 8. So I finished off the Mirror Cup, and I have all golds in all of the Grand Prix. So I got all the golds done. Now all that's left to me is like if I want to do time trials and, of course, online. Don't know if I'm going to do it. I feel like my Mario Kart kick is possibly over, and I need to move on to something else on my Nintendo Switch. Right now, I don't really have anything that I'm playing on my Switch. But I did purchase something on my Nintendo Switch, a game that I've been looking to grab up for a long time. It's a game that I've already played before, but I've been looking to grab it on the Switch so I can have it on the go, and that is the Portal Companion Collection. Yeah, Portal 1 and Portal 2. I think I picked it up for... what was it, like $8, $9, maybe less than that. Obviously, immensely highly recommended if you've never played the Portal games before. Arguably some of the best puzzle games ever made. They're incredible. Portal 1, you can beat it in about an hour. Portal 2, much bigger, and that's the one I'm most interested to replay. I've only played Portal 2 one time, way back when it came out. And I really want to try out the co-op again. I tried the co-op before, and I remember it not working well on the PlayStation 3, so I'm hoping that the Switch will do better and get me through the Portal 2 co-op, which would be awesome. I would love to experience that with my wife. That'd be really cool. So I picked that one up. Don't know when I'm going to get into Portal, but there will most certainly be Portal episodes of the GamerCast when I get to them. And I have finished now 2 of the horror games that I am planning to cover during the month of October. So 1 is done, and I have finished 1 game of the 2 games in a series. So I'm doing a 2-for-1 episode. It'll be 2 games in 1 episode of the same series. And yeah, so I'm plucking my way into the 2nd game now of that franchise. And yeah, so I'm already on a good pacing for October, hoping to get 4, possibly even a 5th bonus episode of horror-themed GamerCast episodes. So I'm very, very excited. And I am planning on hopefully getting in a horror movie each week to talk about as well during the month of October. I have already watched 1 horror movie. I will save it for next week. We'll talk about that to keep up with all the horror stuff. So lots of horror stuff on my docket this week, but we'll save that for next week. Let's dive into the Plucky Squire review and let me know, of course, what y'all are playing, and let's talk Plucky Squire. Alright, so friggin' Plucky Squire, this game. Been hearing a little bit about it throughout the year, I don't remember when the heck it got announced, but I know people had it on their radar and people were talking about it, and I would hear the Plucky Squire's name pop up every now and again, and this is a game made by All Possible Futures and published by Devolver Digital. All Possible Futures, I think this is their first game. I can't find anything on these guys. They don't even have like a Wikipedia page, but Devolver Digital, I know them. They've made tons of games that I've played. Cult of the Lamb, Human Fall Flat, I think they're behind as well. Regardless, this is I'm guessing an indie game. It's released on the PlayStation Plus thingy anyway. They released that day 1, so I was very interested. I was like, oh, cool, a new game. It's got good reviews. It sounds like a lot of fun. And I went in not knowing anything about this game. I had no idea what the gameplay was, had no idea what the concept, anything like that. So I will fill you in on all of that information while we review this game. But I did play it on PlayStation 5. It is available on the PlayStation Plus thingy. So what the heck is this game? Well, it is an action-adventure platformer, if you will, and you are playing as Jot, a.k.a. the Plucky Squire, a little hero in this, storybook land of Mojo. Mojo is the place that you're in. Pretty cute. And you got this evil wizard called Humgrump. He kicks you out of your own book and tries to take over the book. And kind of like in a Toy Story fashion, like if the kid that's reading the book isn't into the story, then the story gets put away and forgotten about and shit like that. So you want to keep your book nice and interesting and make sure that the kids are reading it or you get put away. So this takes place in a young boy's bedroom. Like, this whole game takes place on this kid's desk inside of a book. So it's like, kind of, again, gives me that Toy Story vibe, like, oh, we're in Andy's room, and like this one room is this massive world to you because you're this tiny little character. So I really like that situation, and it's taking place like in the real world and like this book world. So it's like 2D and 3D at the same time. So inside the book, you're 2D, and then when you come out of the book, it's 3D. So really cool situation. That definitely caught me off guard. I was like, whoa, this shit is really cool. And you also get to travel around with your buddies. Thrash, he's like a rock troll. I am not gonna lie, the whole entire game, I was calling him Trash, because it just looks like it's just an H away from Trash. So I was calling him Trash. He was cool. And Violet. There's a bunch of fun, zany characters in this game, but the gameplay is like by far the most unique and, drawing aspect of this game. So like I said, it's a 2D, 3D action platformer situation. The 2D reminds me very much of, if anyone's played Chicory, it looks very much like Chicory. And in the 3D plane, it's more like Sackboy Big Adventure, which I just played. Kind of a classic 3D platformer. So it's mixing those two styles into one. It has a combat to it. There is combat. It's fun, but very simple. It's just a basic hack and slash. You're equipped with a little sword. You'll get bows and arrows, I think, later on, and you can upgrade some of your combat abilities. You can like throw your sword at enemies, and you can throw the sword to pick up items that are far away and shit like that. It'll also help you with puzzles. You can like hit a button or something like that. So majority of the game, it's mostly a puzzle game. There is some combat, that's back burner though. So it's mostly a puzzle game. But yes, the world is filled with puzzles, mostly using the storybook and real world elements. So like inside the book, the puzzles will be like, okay, you gotta rather move, simple puzzles, they're puzzles, kind of chicory like. Outside they also use like environmental puzzles, so it's like, oh hey, you gotta push this box over here so you can jump up on the thing, stuff like that. You're using things in your environment, things around you. And then we start getting into the really unique things. So you kind of have like your standard puzzles, but like what makes these puzzles fun are some of the unique gameplay things that Plucky Squire is using. And one of the first things that they were playing with is words. So you're in the storybook, and there's a narrator that will like read you through the story. It's like, oh, you, the Plucky Squire, here you are in Mojo, and the page flips and you're into a different part of the story. So you're like in the book, and you're basically going through the story. It is really, really cool. And one of their main aspects with the puzzles is you'll come by a sentence and it says, oh, hey, the big whatever is in the way. And you can hit the word, like take big out of the sentence, and you'll be going along, you'll find another sentence that has like small in it. You take small out of that sentence, you bring it over to this sentence, and now the sentence is, oh, the small thing is in the way. And then it makes it small, it gets out of the way, and you're using different words to solve puzzles. And I was like, yo, this shit is cool right here. So that's just one of the little cool, unique gameplay mechanics that they're using in Plucky Squire. Really like that, so that was awesome. And then you can, so there'll be like these portal things throughout the levels, and you're the only one that can interact with them. Your friends are just like, oh, hey, he disappeared. Like, you'll go into the portal and you'll enter like the 3D realm, but your friends don't understand that realm. To them, you just disappear into the void and you're gone for a while. But when you leave, you can actually interact with the book. And with the book, you can turn the pages back and forth. So like if you're at a puzzle and you're like, oh shit, like I could use this thing from 2 pages ago. So you go out of the book, you flip the page backwards, you're like, oh shit, there's the thing that I need. You go into that page again, you grab it, you come back out, flip the page back to where you were, you go back in, use the item, so on and so forth. So that's really cool. So there's like one situation where it's like, oh, we're in this dude's house, and they're like, oh, we gotta go downstairs, but they're like, oh, there's no way downstairs on this page. So I had to go back a couple pages, find a page where it showed the outside of the house. I was like, oh, now I can enter the door from the outside and get to the bottom floor. So really, really unique use of puzzles. I can't say I've ever had anything quite like this. I was very, very impressed and blown away the first time I got knocked out of the page. Like at first you're just in this 2D book. Like you're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is cool. Kind of a standard looking indie 2D game, very chicory looking, and you're doing chicory like things except for coloring in the pages, and all of a sudden you get pushed out and you're in this 3D world and everything's different now. You're like, whoa, okay, now this is quite the turn of the page, if you will. So also with the pages, you can tilt the book as well. So you can sit there and like lift up the left or right side of the book. And for example, let's say there's like a big, heavy box or something that you can't quite move on yourself, but if you go outside of the book and you tilt the page, that item inside the book will slide because you got the book tilted up, and it'll slide to the other side of the page or whatever. So you can do that. There's what is that, like inertia, momentum puzzles, whatever the fuck, you know, physics puzzles. There you go. So they got physics puzzles using different pages and shit like that. And then even later, you'll get this kind of like a sticky stamp. You can stamp things on the outside of the pages as well. So one of them, it's like a stop stamp. So let's say there's like this, you're at an obstacle that's moving really too fast. You can't pass it. It's just too fast. So you go outside of the book, you grab your stamp, and you stamp the thing that's moving too fast, and it'll slow it down or stop it. And then you go back inside the page, and you can go through the obstacle. I'm like, what the fuck? That is sick. And there's another one. You got the bombs. You'll get a bomb stamp. You can stamp certain things, like, obviously you can destroy things. Like, oh, there's this box that needs to be destroyed. Fucking bomb stamp that bitch and boom, it's gone. Other things, though, you have to use the bombs to move things. So there'll be like a big fucking boulder or something. Again, too heavy to move. So you put a bomb near it and it'll push it down further where you need to go. So another unique, fun kind of physics-based puzzle right there, using 2D and 3D world at the same time. So that's really fun. And you'll also get to, like, stick things. So there's, like, also, so it's like this was, like, kind of using 3 mechanics in one. So I had this, like, fucking big, heavy block or whatever I needed to slide over to the other side, but I also needed to flip the page and stick it to the other side of the page without it moving. So I had to slide it over, get out of the book, stamp it so it stays in place, and then flip the page and connect it to the other side of the page to get it to stick to the other side. It sounds complicated. It may be complicated, but I promise you, not once throughout this game did I have to look up what to do. I felt like the puzzles were pretty well done, man. Like, I wasn't too stumped. I never was like, fuck, what the hell do I do? Generally, I would be like, all right, what mechanic did they just show me? They'll generally show you something about what you're about to get into. It's like, all right, this is how you slide things. Then you'll get to the page, and then you'll be hit with, like, a sliding puzzle. You're like, all right, they just showed me how to do this. Let's figure it out. But if you do get stuck, they have this little wizard named Moonbeard, and he has, like, a little mini version of himself that's all over the game. Wherever there's a puzzle, there will be a mini beard. If you happen to get stuck, you can talk to Mini Beard, and he will help you, I'm guessing. I don't know, because I never needed his help, proudly. I proudly got through this game without needing any assistance. I can't say the same thing for Cocoon. Cocoon stumped me a few times. So it's not on the depth of Cocoon, where you might have to think multiple layers. It can be pretty complicated, Cocoon. Plucky Squire, I didn't have that problem, even though I'm going in and out of 2D to 3D, back into 2D, back out, flipping pages and shit like that. It all felt really well paced, and they showed me what to do at the right times. And again, if I ever did get stuck, they always had that Mini Beard to sit there and help you if you needed it. But I thought the puzzles were not like, hey, idiot, like, it's all right here for you. Like, they weren't so obvious. It took just the right amount of brain power for me, personally, where I was like, yes, of course. I wasn't just like, oh, what the fuck do I do right here? I don't understand any of this. Never really had that problem with the puzzles in this game. They were really, really fun, very satisfying. So we talked about the stamps. There is a very, 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 very minor amount of stealth in this game. We're talking maybe 2 sections where the stealth was present. It's not very good. I didn't like the stealth. It's very plain. Like, it's nowhere on the depths of Metal Gear Solid. You're not throwing a Playboy magazine out at the bugs so they can sit there and go, oh, that's a nice looking beetle rack, and they're all distracted and shit. No, it's just, you gotta move slowly and move at the right time so you don't get attacked by the bugs. If the bug sees you, it'll run over and kill you. But yeah, the stealth sections aren't very good, but there aren't very many of them, so that's okay. So let's talk a little bit more about the combat. Like I said, it is limited. There's not a lot going on to it. It's just a standard attack. You got a jump attack, you got a spin attack, and you can roll to dodge, you can jump. It's pretty standard, like, throughout, like, you don't have all these moves right away. You can, like, you'll be collecting currency, and then this bitch, a fucking gift box or whatever, she sells you stuff, and she'll be like, hey, do you want to buy this new move? And there's only 2 or 3 moves or whatever. You get the spin attack, the jump attack, and, like, I think the throwing of the sword you also have to buy as well, and you can upgrade them each 3 times. And probably one of my favorite things about this game is the collectible that you can find throughout the game. And the collectibles are actually real pieces of concept art throughout the game while the game was being developed. So you'll sit there, you'll be walking around, find yourself in a little corner, you're like, oh, hey, there's a little scroll over there. You go grab it, and it's a piece of concept art, and it's really, really cool. Really cool. I loved the concept art pieces throughout the game because it will actually show you like, oh, hey, here's an early concept of the Plucky Squire, and it's not the guy that you're playing. Like, yeah, initially we had this idea, but then we switched it and we changed it to this for this reason, and it's an awesome like little peer behind the scenes of how the game was getting made while you're playing it. I thought that was so fucking cool. They're like, oh, here's the concept art initially for this area that you're in, and like, here's the little differences that we made, and like, I loved it. I absolutely loved that idea of having concept art as the collectible, and like little commentary on like, oh yeah, we had this idea for that dude, but we changed it to this. Here's some early gameplay mechanics, and like they had one like, here's like the first concept art for Plucky Squire. Like, this is the initial idea, like the napkin, like the picture on the napkin, like, oh, I have this idea, I need to write it down. And they had all that in there. It was awesome. So huge shout out to the concept art collectibles. That shit was awesome. So you are collecting like these like little bell things as like your currency, and you can buy these concept art pieces as well from the lady at the gift shop. I always made sure to buy every one that she had available because I love the concept art. I thought they were so cute. But yeah, you can upgrade your attacks. They get minorly more powerful. Not a lot, you know. I really wish the sword throwing was more powerful. It does take a lot of hits to take an enemy down with the sword throw, but the jump attack was good, but it's repetitive. Like, you're just smashing the square button over and over again. You might hit square or X and square a bunch. It's repetitive. It gets pretty boring pretty quickly, but there isn't like, the pacing with the combat is decent. It's not like, oh, here's combat and then some more combat and then, hey, I heard you like combat, here's some combat. No, it's like puzzle, little story fun bit, maybe a puzzle, so a little bit combat, maybe a stealth, more puzzle, little combat, little puzzle, kind of thing like that. Combat is definitely on the back burner. You can, obviously, a lot of the time and efforts went into the puzzles and the cool mechanics like that, but the combat, it's not offensive, it's not bad, it works, it's fine, it's just nothing special. Alright, what else do we get? There are some levels where you get like a jetpack, which are really cool. So they'll have like the 3D levels when you leave the book are generally for like, you're leaving the book because you need to go get this power up. They'll be like, oh, there's a new fucking special something, and that special something at times is a jetpack. They're like, oh, you need to go out and find something in the other world, and so you go out there, and those levels are okay. I will say, like, I much prefer the 2D. Just the 2D platforming is more. It's just better. 2D platforming for me is just better. It's easier to control. The 3D stuff is good as well. It's fine. I just, side to side comparison in the same game, just prefer the 2D stuff. But anyway, in the 3D, you'll get a jetpack, which allows you to fly up to hard to reach places. They have some concept art up there. Those were fun. I really enjoyed getting the jetpack. I wish that was something I got to keep, but you only get to use it in certain levels. But those levels were really fun. So that's pretty much it, man. Like, you're using this really unique concept of in and out of the 3D world, using the book to move around parts of the puzzles. You got these word puzzles that you're scrambling the words around to change the environments of the book. Okay, well, here's a good one. So an example with the word puzzle, I got onto this one page and it was like, oh, we're in a thick, dense forest, and I had to change the sentence so that it was, I think I turned it into like a rock garden or something so I can get through this dense forest. So you're changing environments. It's just like really cool, man. I must say, I was rather impressed the first time I got to see what was going on. And there's also, so kind of instead of boss fights, they have kind of like boss fights, but instead of like your general boss fights, like, oh, here's this big creature and you're gonna fight it or whatever, they do these like really fun mini games, and the mini games are like completely different gameplay styles. The first one that I did was like a punch out situation. There was this very angry honey badger that was stealing honey from a bee, and I had to defend that bee, and all of a sudden we get sent into this Mike Tyson punch out fucking mini game, and I'm fighting a honey badger, in a Mike Tyson Punch-Out fashion, and it was fucking cool. It's super quick, it's fun, and it's a nice, let's say a breath of fresh air, like completely different random gameplay style. Like, whoa, what the fuck? All of a sudden, I'm kicking ass with the boxing gloves, and I thought that was super cool. So these like little mini game boss fights, definitely one of the highlights of the game, I will most certainly say. Another one that you get is all of a sudden you're in this like RPG fight. You have to leave the book and you climb up this fucking big area, and at the top is this like magic card, like Magic the Gathering, and there's this elf in it, and you have to go up there, and when you get up there, she wants to fight you, and you got to fight her in like a classic turn-based RPG style, which was awesome. I mean, that was sick. And then you get to steal her bow, which is also really cute. You also again, these are all just different gameplay styles. So you got the RPG, and then you get this kind of like shoot 'em up with this big boss bug. So you got this giant bug, kind of mosquito dude. You're shooting him in his big eye, and he's like throwing mini mosquitoes at you. You got to shoot them out of the air before they hit you. That one was okay. It was okay. Not my favorite one. Another one. Here's another one. We're just gonna go through them. They're all really fun. If anyone remembers Rhythm Heaven, I think it was a DS game, and you had to hit the rhythms in these like really awkward rhythms, and they have a Rhythm Heaven like mini game. Very easy. It's just like you are playing as Thrash throughout these ones, and you'll be in like a musical battle, and you're basically playing like you're just batting an item back and forth to a musical track, and you're just trying to stay on time. It's like stuff like that. Really fun. I really enjoyed that. And then you'll get into what the fuck is that? You're batting an item back and forth between each other, like fucking Ganon and Zelda and Link in Ocarina of Time. You're doing that, and you gotta hit them in the head with a bolt or something like that. Really cool. I really enjoyed the Rhythm Heaven freaking mini games. The mini games, like I said, they're fantastic. Another one, you get this side-scrolling shoot 'em up one, which was dope. Whenever Jot has to whenever you get into these little mini games, kind of like SpongeBob SquarePants, like when they just like rip off their clothes and they're fucking shredded all of a sudden. Like Jot the Plucky Squire will do that as well. It's like, oh, we got it. You'll just come up to this giant gun and you'll like rip off your sleeves, and all of a sudden you're jacked as fuck, and you grab the gun, you're like this action superhero, and then you go into this like ridiculous side-scrolling shoot 'em up thing. You're shooting everything. The music is going crazy, like just this crazy electric guitar solo. It's awesome. Fucking awesome. That was great. And then you got is it Peggle? I don't think it's Peggle. It might be Bejeweled. Maybe Bejeweled, where you have to line up the 3 colors or whatever on the board, and you're shooting them up or whatever. Not a big fan of it. I was never really good at, Bejeweled is whatever. It was a fine phone game in 2006 or whatever. But in here, it was okay. I'm admittedly really bad at it. I failed on these quite a few times. All the other mini games were easy peasy lemon squeezy. When we get to this fucking Bejeweled puzzle mini game thing, I was struggling, man. It took me quite a few tries to get through those, but I eventually figured it out. I guess I'm just stupid. And then we get this not really, I guess it is a mini game, but you got this little mouse. I think his name is Pip. But he comes along with you later in the game. You have to do these stealth sections. Now, they're not like the other stealth sections. These ones are actually pretty cool, and they come with a fantastic little jazzy, funky song that goes along with it. And the goal with this one is like you're kind of on like a grid, basically, and you'll have these security guards that will be moving around to this musical beat. And you have to get through the security guards on this beat without getting caught. And it's super just groovy. Like the whole time I was like moving along with the music and getting in with the rhythm so I could move along with this little puzzle thing. Really fun. It was, well, I don't know, I'm not going to say that it was annoying. It definitely wasn't my favorite minigame. I enjoyed the music the most. It was the funky music and just like, yeah, that part of it was definitely the best. And then they mix all of these mini games together into the final fight, which I thought was great. Once once I got to that final fight and we started off with a mini game, I'm like, oh, are they gonna mix in all the mini games into one final fight? And that's exactly what they did. The final battle is a combination of 3 mini games. You got the rhythm. You start with a rhythm heaven, and you're using all 3 of the characters. Like, you're using your Plucky Squire guy, fucking Thrash, and Violet, the little mage or whatever. We'll talk about them in a little bit, but the final battle, you get the Rhythm Heaven, you get the Peggle puzzle, which I was fucking terrible at, and then you go into a Punch-Out fight. Actually, it's more than that. Then you get the 3D flying shooter fight, which was different. That was kind of like the other side-scrolling shooter was in 2D. This one, they take you out into the 3D world, which was pretty fucking cool. Overall, it was a really fun final battle. Love that they brought together all the mini games together, which I felt like was a highlight of the gameplay. Bring that all into the final fight. Familiar, but a little different. So just a little twist there at the end to make it different. Keep you on your toes. Really enjoyed that final fight. So I guess I should go back and talk about graphics and the performance and everything. So obviously the big thing is the game is switching between 2D, more colorful art style. Like I said, if you know Chicory, it looks very much like Chicory. Like, that's the exact art style that it looks like. Looks very much like Chicory, but colored in. And then the 3D, like I said, more realistic. Looks very similar to Little Big Planet, Sackboy Big Adventure, that kind of thing. Like, it's cartoony, but more real than the 2D stuff. You know what I'm saying? So you're hopping in back and forth between that. That's great. And some of the environments, you'll go through a few areas in Mojo. My favorite one by far was like the metal-themed mountain that you're climbing. That's kind of a bigger section of the game. You spend a lot of time there. You and Thrash are going up. And Thrash's hometown, or wherever the fuck he's from, like, everyone's about metal, music, metal, like, fucking yeah, Metallica and stuff. So everyone's like rocking out, the music is all metal and shit like that. And even the trees are throwing up the devil horns, which I was like, that's a good little touch right there. I like that little detail. That area was cool. Other than that, you got like nice little, cozy little town that you're at, the nice forest, grassy area, shit like that. The environments never like really stood out. I did though really enjoy the 3D, being in the kid's room. Like, you're on his desk, and the desk is just fucking just cluttered with freaking stuff all over the place. There's paint jars. Like, the kid is very, very creative. Like, he's creating these storybooks. He's, very artistic. He's got paint all over the place, little toys, doodads, fucking stuff all over this desk, so there's lots of little details on the desk, little things you're looking at, little drawings, and just a bunch of fun little shit. And fun little trophy that I got pretty early in the game. I fell off the desk, and that's like, they give you a fun trophy for that. So another nice little touch right there from the developers of the game, falling off the desk. I enjoyed that. But it's a good looking game. Like, it's nice to look at. It's not like AAA levels or anything like that, but it's a good looking game. Like, I like the 2D art style, nice and colorful. The animations in the 3D are pretty good. Like, it's not blowing you away, but they're not asking. It's not a full price video game. It's $40 or $37, something like that. $40. Again, it's a little bit high, yeah, for an indie game. And the game itself took me about 8 hours to get through. And I wouldn't say there's a whole lot of replayability outside of wanting to collect the concept art. So we'll get to that recommendation part more when we get to the final overview of the game and the scoring. But no, I wouldn't say there's a whole lot of replayability after your first playthrough of the game. But smooth performances overall. There was only one time the game kind of froze on me and I had to reload the level. Outside of that, I had no frame rate drops. I had no crashes. Just one freeze. That was it. And I haven't heard any consistent problems with the performance. I had a good time there. And the music. Good range of upbeat music tracks. Like I said, I had a good time with the metal area where there's more guitars and shit like that. I enjoyed that music. And then the narrator. You got a narrator that's, narrating the story while you're playing through the game. It's good. It's a nice, good voice. It's comfortable. It's nice to be read to every once in a while, and yeah, I enjoyed the narrator. That was some good stuff. And I guess let's talk about the characters just a little bit here, because they're pretty decent. You got this Moonbeard guy. He's a wizard. He's got glasses on, like fucking sunglasses, so he's like a cool wizard. I liked him. He was, classic wizard. He would also they would play a little bit with like the idea that like they know that they're just characters in a storybook and like what is life, but Moonbeard's always like, whatever, we're living in here, we're alive, it's all good in here, so don't worry about it. But Violet, the kind of the what do you call it, the apprentice mage, if you will, to Moonbeard, she's always like, yeah, but like we're not even like real though, right? So she's like always kind of playing with that idea. So there's a fun little dynamic between Moonbeard and the girl, Violet. And I like Moonbeard, he makes Mini-Beard. He's like, I just needed a little assistant, so I cloned myself, and now this like Mini-Beard is all over the place. That thing was fine. He was pretty key. You got Trash. I like Trash. He's a troll who is terrified of snakes and then eventually overcomes his fear of snakes. Classic stuff right there. But he's cute. Classic kind of like bro. I don't think he's quite homie level. I think he's more of my bro. He's just like, yeah, that's my bro right there. Not homie. Didn't quite get to the homie level, but I'll hit him with a bro. I'll hit him with a bro. He's cool. He's I'm not going to do everything for him. I'm not going to, sacrifice my life because he's not the homie, but my bro. And Violet, she's fine. She's not around as much. You're definitely closer with Thrash, but yeah, the characters were good. The Plucky Squire himself, super cute and charming. I like his simple design. Initially, according to the concept art, Plucky Squire, his initial design was much more detailed, and they were like, yeah, it turns out it was a little bit too detailed, and it made like, drawing him and developing the game harder. So we went for a more simple, charming vibe for Plucky Squire, and I like his design. It's simple, it's charming, it's exactly what they were going for, so they nailed that. I enjoyed this game. So with the overview, like I said, 8 hours long, $40, not a lot of replayability, so that would be a con for me. There's just not really a lot of meat on that bone after you play it. Was it fun enough for me to want to go through those levels again? Not necessarily. Like the platforming and some puzzles were a bit just whatever. The more unique puzzles using the page and the 2D to 3D stuff, that was really cool. But I mean, they weren't like so fun and unique or challenging that I would need to go back and experience them again, I don't think. So again, I don't think it has a whole lot of replayability outside its initial playthrough, and the only other con that I can really come up with is the combat is rather plain. There's not a lot going on with it. It gets pretty repetitive quickly. Thankfully, there's not too much combat that became a major issue where I was like, ugh, more combat. When the combat came, it's like, all right, we got some combat here, quick, simple, get it out of the way. I wasn't craving more combat ever, but I wasn't dreading it necessarily, so there's that. Now the pros of the game. I love the mini games. I love that shift, that change in gameplay just for a little bit, just a nice little teaser. They were all really fun and quick, and yes, so I really enjoyed those mini games. And I love these unique, fun mechanics that make the Plucky Squire unique. I like the 2D to 3D puzzles. I like the pages. I like the whole book concept thing. I love the whole concept of this game. It's a great concept. Super, super cool. Coming out of the storybook and yeah, man, interacting with the life outside. I enjoyed that story as well. Like it's a cool child like story. Like, if you the imagination, the creativity of the book goes down, the kid forgets about the book and then forgets about you, forgets about your story, and you go away and you're gone, you're forgotten about. So like that's I love the concept of the game and the game taking place inside the kid's room. Super cool. The puzzles were fun. I enjoyed the puzzles. They weren't too hard to the point where I felt like a moron. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have to look anything up, and they weren't so simple that I was just like, get to the page and I know exactly what I have to do right away because it's so obvious right in front of me. I felt like they did just a right balance of not too hard, not making me feel stupid, and not making me feel like, this is some baby shit. I really enjoyed the balance of the puzzles. The art style was really key. I preferred the 2D. The 2D had more flavor to it, more colors. There's more personality in the 2D, but the 3D was good as well. It was charming, kind of cute. I enjoyed it. And the concept art collectibles, have to shout that out. I'm generally not a big collectibles guy, but I really, really enjoy collecting these things. I loved looking for them, I loved finding them, and I loved looking at the art. And I especially like the little commentary on the art pieces, explaining, like, this is what we went with originally. This is why we changed this. Oh, look how we started with this and look how he ended up. Or look at this guy. We nailed this design right away. He didn't change at all. So I loved that kind of behind the scenes look at the game getting developed while you're playing it. I thought that was genius. Overall, I am going to hit this game with an 8 out of 10. I think this is a great, fun little experience right there. Better if you get to, play it for free-ish on the PlayStation Plus for the $40 price tag. Me being the cheap fuck that I am, I would say hold off for a sale if you can. I mean, if you're dying for this, it sounds like right up your alley. I think $40, you could do a lot worse with $40. It's just if you're a person that needs a little bit more than 8 hours out of your game, I don't know if you're going to get much more out of Plucky Squire than its initial 8-ish hour run. But I had a great little time with this thing. Super nice palate cleanser to get me ready for the horrors that will be October. Yeah, man. Check out, don't miss out on Plucky Squire. This thing was a charming, fun little indie game right there. And looking forward to see what else they can do with that. Are they going to go with a Plucky Squire 2? It seems like they can set up for a Plucky Squire 2 rather easily, and with, they're a really nice base built with this game already. I would love to see what the next level of these puzzles would be. How much more complicated could they make it, and what other really fun mechanics could they add into this? I would love to see more fucking mini games. I see you, whatever name of this company that it is. Hold on, I'll get you. All possible futures. I see you very impressed with this Plucky Squire game of yours right here. 8 out of 10. Let me know if you played the Plucky Squire, or if you are going to play the Plucky Squire. I would recommend it. I think it's a great little game. Definitely going to be on the list for one of my favorite indie games of the year. Most certainly, absolutely going to be in that conversation. But yeah, that is my modern review for this week. I feel like it's been a while since we've done ourselves a modern review. I don't really play new games. I only play new games when they come out on Game Pass or the PlayStation Plus thing, because new games nowadays are just too fucking expensive. They're generally risky to play a game nowadays on day one, because they're generally buggy and not completed. So I don't mind waiting a year until the game is nice and fixed up and ready for me to play it. But regardless, I think Plucky Squire is good enough, ready for you to play now. Performance-wise, it's great. So get out there, play yourself some Plucky Squire before you get into the horrors of October with the GXGamerCast. And that is the plan for the whole entire month of October, y'all. We're going to be doing scary games. I got a scary list. So yeah, man, if you're in for horror, it's going to be a very fun horror-themed month for the GamerCast. Horror movies, horror video games, and me getting scared a lot, I would imagine. So yeah, that should be a lot of fun. In terms of what else we got going on with the GX Plus cast this week, got yourselves a nice wrestling recap, going through AEW and WWE shows as always. No pay-per-views this week, but we got Bad Blood, I believe, is next week, so we'll have a pay-per-view review for that one. And the Hockey Cast. Holy shit, dude, hockey season is right around the corner, bro. October 8th, we kick off the NHL regular season, I do believe, and holy shit, that is like 10 or so days away. So we are getting super close. I just did my big predictions extravaganza on the last episode, so you can go back, see all my terrible predictions and all that great stuff. And we'll continue on with some more list kind of things for the Hockey Cast. I want to look at like all the rookies for the season. I want to look at breakout candidates, sleepers, that kind of thing. Maybe help out some people before their fantasy drafts. I know there's Probably a lot of those have happened. I actually have one tonight. I did one last weekend, and I have a third one next weekend. I'm going 3 fantasy hockeys this season. I have made an error, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's going to be a lot of fun. I love drafting, so that is great. Throw your fantasy teams at me if you'd like. I'd love to take a look at them and see what squads you're rocking. Love talking fantasy hockey, but yeah, we'll save that for the hockey show. And there we go, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to the GX Plus Cast. You guys are the best. You want to be even more of the best, though. Make sure you're reviewing the podcast, telling 30 or so of your friends about the podcast, sharing it with everybody that you see, and following along on Twitter, liking all my posts, subscribing to the YouTube channel, and watching all the episodes that I upload over there. Every episode goes over there, so you can watch them on YouTube. Great place to drop a comment on the YouTube episodes. If you want a question answered live on the podcast, drop a question. Love to answer anything about wrestling, hockey, or video games. Outside of that, I don't know if I can give you the best advice, but I'll try my best, man. But be careful. All right, so, and there's an email address there as well. If you want to have a private conversation, my door is open for anyone and everyone. And one more time, thank you everybody for listening to the GX Plus Cast.